Self-actualizing. Self-actualizing is one of the constructive styles, and as we view it on the Circumplex, it's the strongest satisfaction-seeking form of behaviour that we measure. So it's very much about getting a sense of satisfaction from what I do. And that's the essential characteristic of self-actualizing. When we look at that phrase, self-actualizing, it's a somewhat convoluted word, but to actualize the self, to become the self. So the Maslow's work behind it was around growing and developing to become the self that I am capable of becoming. So when we look at people who score high in the self-actualizing domain, we see that they have a very strong acceptance of self. They are that person who is confident within themselves. I mean, they assume when they come into a room that people will probably want to talk to them. The opposite is the avoidance, who believes that nobody's going to want to talk to them. They have an interest in their own growth and development, so they're open to new experience. They like to experiment with things. They like to multiply the number of experiences they can have because they learn from those experiences. And a key element of that self-actualizing style of behaviour and thinking is that they seek enjoyment from what they do. They have a strong sense of optimism. I mean, intriguingly enough, one of the descriptors in the lifestyles inventory around self-actualizing is the phrase optimistic and realistic. And often you'll run a workshop and you'll get the very low self-actualizing person in the group who simply can't understand that those two words can go together in the same sentence. I mean, how can you be optimistic and realistic? So this self-actualizing is it's based in reality, but it's a sense of optimism and enthusiasm about the future. And the other key element that comes into self-actualizing is a strong sense of personal integrity. So they have a strong sense that there are beliefs, there are values, there is a sense of self that must be delivered as an individual. So the strong sense of integrity says, I will treat you as an individual. I will not put you into a category and treat you as a category. I'll treat you on a one-to-one basis as an individual. So when you watch the program displays and look at the individual who portrays the self-actualizing style, you'll see that he engages with each individual as an individual, rather than treating with people as collective. So that's what we mean by the strong sense of integrity. They have the sense that people are who they are and are okay in who they are and deserve to be dealt with as individuals for who they are. They are very, very strongly alive in the present moment. I mean, this is a key attribute to self-actualizing, that they are alive and aware in what's going on around them. One of the sad realities of life is that we often waste the present moment because we think too much about what's happening in the past, and often we think too much about what's happening in the future. I mean, the best illustration I've heard of that is when somebody's at a dinner party and they're having the entree and they're wondering what the main course is going to be like. When they're having the main course, they're wondering what the dessert's going to be like. When they're having the dessert, they're wondering whether the coffee's going to be any good. And then they go away and saying, well, that wasn't a very nice dinner, was it? Well, it can't have been. You weren't there. You were one course ahead of yourself the entire way. So this alive in the present moment. So again, as you watch the individual in the program display that behaviour, you'll see he's very aware. He's very alive in the moment. He wants to enjoy that moment. And this is a strong satisfaction that underpins self-actualizing, is that whatever I do, I must get a sense of enjoyment and satisfaction from. So I'll strive to find that enjoyment. What that means in an organisation, at both a group and an organisational level, is there's a willingness to be involved. There's a willingness to experiment. So if we're in a self-actualizing organisation and I ask for volunteers, you'll all put your hand up because this is an opportunity to experience something. It's an opportunity to learn. The exact opposite of the avoidance organisation where nobody volunteers for anything. So it's a behaviour pattern that is very, very closely associated with things like initiative, creativity, innovativeness, adaptability, all of which aid and abet an organisation's capacity to excel in an environment that is demanding of swift change and swift reaction to changes in the environment. So that creativity, that innovativeness is a very, very powerful component. At the individual level, a lot of people don't score high in self-actualizing. Any scores in the passive defensive, the aggressive defensive styles will actually reduce self-actualizing in your profile. So it's about looking at it, if I'm overly strong in approval orientation, then I can't have a strong sense of self-worth, for instance. So it's about taking those behaviours, those styles of thinking, and saying, how do I develop a clear interest in what is going on around me at the moment? How do I strive to seek enjoyment from what I do? I mean, there's an expression, you're a hell of a long time dead, so you really should enjoy what you're doing. So let's focus on how I can enjoy what I'm doing. Let's focus on how I can learn and grow through experiences. So get into the habit of evaluating experiences and saying, what did I learn about myself from there? And that is where self-actualizing is in fact a great insulator against stress. Because regardless of what happens, that S plus T equals R, regardless of what happens in terms of the situation, the self-actualizing person will think, no matter how tough that was, the takeout for me is, what did I learn about myself from that? How can I become a better person as a consequence of that experience? And it's a very, very powerful phenomenon, and that's self-actualizing.